Welcome to the Deep Specialization Podcast, the show where we blend focus, strategy, and client intimacy in order to scale and simplify our businesses and our lives. I'm your host, Corey Quinn. Let's jump into the show. Today, I'm joined by the chairman of Barrel Holdings, Peter Kang. Well, welcome, Peter.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Corey.
Super excited for our conversation. I have been following your content for a long time. You are a veteran in the agency space and have been through a lot over the years, and really interested to hear your perspectives on specializing, growing an agency, building a holding company. All of these things are going to be, I think, a real treat for our audience. But to kick things off, would you mind introducing yourself, sharing a little bit about yourself and Barrel Holdings?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Peter. I've been in this digital agency space for quite some time. Yeah, I began an agency business back in 2006 with my co-founder, Sewuk. That business was called Barrel. And yeah, we began making websites from the get-go for small businesses, evolved into making websites for different types of companies, corporations. And eventually we became more focused in the type of work we did and became a Shopify Plus agency. And so Barrel has become a Shopify e-commerce web agency that has been going on for 18 years now. And along the way, we had some moments where we were able to kind of spin out a few other businesses, agency businesses. Okay. And so now we have a portfolio of agency businesses, some that focus on another platform called Webflow, some that do kind of very specific work on the support and maintenance side, and another one that's kind of more focused on the brand design side. So yeah, this kind of portfolio of businesses is what we call Barrel Holdings. And so that's kind of what we oversee today.
Beautiful. And so I definitely want to dive into the holding aspect, the holding company aspect of your business, as well as these other brands. But first, I want to dive into a little bit about Barrel. It seems like Barrel was the company that you and your co-founder started back in the day, and that's still the primary, I would say the largest out of the portfolio. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it definitely is. And yeah, it's the one that, where we cut our teeth. I mean, we started the business very young. I was 23 at the time, and my business partner was 21. So, we're very inexperienced in so many different ways. And used Barrel basically as our, education into business, into becoming, managers and, just everything that's required to kind of survive as a business.
So just for context for the listeners, what could you share about the sort of the size or, number of employees, clients, revenue, anything about Barrel?
Yeah. So we've been headcount wise, we probably have like 20, 25 full-time folks. We also leverage a pretty vast contractor network of about, 15, 20 folks as well. And we work with a lot of clients in the CPG, food and bev space, as well as home goods. So yeah, those are kind of our, vertical sweet spots.
Beautiful. So take us back to when you were 23 and your co-founder was 21. What was happening in your life that led you to do the crazy thing, such as starting a web agency?
Yeah. I think we weren't, as intentional about it, just kind of being at that age. The main thing was, hey, like, what can we do that we, enjoyed and, afforded us the opportunity to work together. I'm a couple years older. So, I had graduated from college first, got my job right out of school, an investment bank, worked at Lehman Brothers for a year. But even while I was there, just, thought, hey, like, Sewuk and I, we definitely want to do something together at the soonest opportunity. And so we kept that dream alive, met up on weekends, worked together on different projects and just, kept at it. And so, when the time came, 1 year for me into my finance job, I quit and then decided to officially start Barrel. And it's, I think it was just kind of this, stubbornness about, hey, like, we're going to just make our own business. We're going to find a way to work together and build something, that we can be proud of. And I think that, that's kind of held true, to this day of like the two of us, great relationship. Like we're close friends as well as like just really, complementary business partners. And I think that's been kind of the foundation of everything we've done, for basically 2 decades. Cause, we met basically, during our time in college, and that partnership has continued.
So Dave Ramsey says the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. 21 years in the business with a partner and going strong is very commendable. You mentioned that you have complementary strengths. Can you share a little bit about how you two operate together and make it work for so long?
Yeah, so there's a picture I took because we used, when we worked out of an office in Manhattan, we sat side by side, and so I took a picture of our desks once, and it's a great window into like how different we are. So I think I'm tidier nowadays, I guess, but like I'm the type that things accumulate on my desk, and so I think if you give it a few weeks, you'll see piles of papers, you'll see maybe some wrappers, you'll see some dirty mugs. It just accumulates, and at a certain point, like you got to really kind of wade your way around it. And then Saywook, always pristine. It's not only minimal, just like laptop and maybe a pen and a notebook, but it's spotless as well. He's always cleaning. Like I remember also, like you look at our MacBook screens, mine's smudged up and it's pretty dirty. His is like he cleans. He's the type that will basically Windex his screen every day and make sure his keyboards are clean. And I remember he'd be so disgusted looking at my laptop. But anyway, that's a window into it, because like so I would, and even in the type of work that we did early on, I was the one that leaned more, led the design, creative, UX, and then the client facing side of things. And then Saywook would always kind of lead with like the technical side of things, the development work, as well as kind of the operation, like the business, like finance ops, HR side of things on the business side. And so over time, we just kind of found our, strengths that way. And also just in the ways we interact. I mean, I think I like to say, way more talkative than Saywook. He's definitely, a great listener, just, very reserved, and, he's very thoughtful in his, in the way he talks. Sometimes I like to spitball and just kind of, just talk as I'm thinking through things. And so, those kinds of qualities also, we're very different in those ways. They're very, I guess, kind of, in many ways opposites. And so, combined together, there's a balancing effect to how we operate.
That's awesome. So you started when you were 23 years old. Your partner, you said 21. Yeah. Yep. What's his name again? I'm sorry. I should know.
Saywook. Yeah, it's Saywook.
Saywook. So you started off doing websites for just a lot of different businesses, and then how did that evolve into becoming a Shopify Plus, shop? Like, what were the steps? What was happening in the business that caused you to specialize in this platform?
Yeah, part of it was just kind of the momentum of Shopify at the time, and just we had been early adopters, had done some early work in Shopify, as early as I think like 2011 or so, and maybe even a little bit earlier, because when Shopify was like first on the scene, and just over time we saw a growing just organic opportunities, just because we had, by being early adopters, we had kind of put our name out there as like an agency that did Shopify work. So as new merchants came onto Shopify and needed help on the web, we'd either get referrals from the partnership program that Shopify ran, or just from other merchants talking to each other. So that kind of had a momentum of its own. And so after, at a certain point, we're like, wow, like Shopify is not an insignificant part of our kind of mix, our portfolio. And in many ways, we saw the future, and we were like, well, I think e-commerce is this kind of, really secular trend that, we can ride and, just build something that with some really great tailwinds. And so that's where, we decided to kind of go all in on Shopify, and, just having the repetition and, just seeing all the different use cases, edge cases, and, situations with our clients made us more confident in being able to do the Shopify work over and over again, and ever increasing levels of complexity. So those were all things that drove us to be like, okay, this is a good strategic way to position ourselves, and also just have deeper expertise in this particular area.
Yeah, and I imagine over the years, it sounds like you probably were earlier adopter in this platform and this ecosystem. As you said, your sort of tailwinds, the tide was rising, and you're sort of had enough evidence that made sense to position in this area. What is it? How has that changed today? Is it? I imagine it's more competitive. I imagine there's a lot of agencies out there who are also Shopify Plus 100%. Agencies who are looking to win the same clients that you guys are looking to win. How do you manage that or approach that from a differentiation perspective?
Yeah, no, and I think if we're being completely honest with like how we've done, like I think, you know, we probably went all in a little bit too late in the sense of like, you know, I think we just, you know, being in business for that long, like there was, you know, we had a lot of legacy clients on different platforms, namely like WordPress. We did a lot of work. We were also doing just UX UI work for different types of businesses. And so, you know, like I think that kind of slowed us down in like really signaling also to Shopify that like, hey, we're a pure play Shopify, you know, agency. And like, you know, we should be in line to kind of really get, you know, your most, you know, exciting kind of opportunities with merchants and brands coming onto the platform. You know, I think in that regard, we did, yeah, there were some really great kind of Shopify first agencies that kind of took those opportunities and really kind of benefited from that positioning. So I'd say like, yeah, like we're still very much committed to the Shopify side of things, but then there's definitely been, yeah, like some missed opportunities because we weren't, you know, fully committed. And we could talk about this more later, but this is actually like the very learnings that we took in kind of launching our Webflow specific agency, BX Studio. And I think we're applying all the lessons learned to that right now and kind of seeing the benefits of kind of being, you know, 100% committed early on.
Got it. So what were some of the things that you missed out on? It sounds like Shopify actually had an opinion in this in some respects. They had some level of control in that they saw that they're going to help promote those agencies that are fully committed to their platform. Is that kind of what it was, or was it something else?
I mean, it's just about relationship building, and I think it's like, you know, at the end, like we were like, all right, cool, like we're getting good organic Shopify leads, and the partner program is sending us some leads, but like it's, you know, we were a bit complacent about it just because we were like, oh, we were early, so like, you know, you just expect the same thing to continue. But like as new entrants come, and you know, these folks were smart, they really went, you know, the extra mile to be like, all right, like let's co-market with Shopify. Let's do, you know, extra outreach. Let's really put a program around promoting Shopify and kind of getting in front of potential merchants and really building that practice. And I think, you know, just by virtue of being like, oh yeah, they've always fed us, you know, some good opportunities that'll continue just because we thought we had the pedigree. That was kind of the mistake, was like, hey, we should have been more deliberate. We should have been like, okay, if this is where things are going, how do we make sure we, you know, continue to contribute to, let's say, the thought leadership aspect of it? How do we continue to show, you know, Shopify, hey, like we can work together to win, you know, XYZ merchant that's on, you know, Magento or, you know, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and try to bring them over. So I think those are all the opportunities that, yeah, like in hindsight, it's like, oh crap, like we should have done these things. But yeah, but like, you know, at the time we were like, you know, we were still busy at the time and growing. So like, you know, it's really hard to,
you know,
yeah, it was good. So like, it was easy and lazy, but I think the ones that like really had that intention and like that strategy kind of honed in were ones that benefited quite a bit. So yeah, I'd say like there were definitely lessons and takeaways from that.
Sure. And so you mentioned BX Studio. That's your Webflow agency?
Yeah, exactly. And like that came about because like, you know, we just happened to have some folks on our team that were early adopters of Webflow, and like and you know, this is when like Webflow was still pretty new to the scene and just trying to get a foothold on things. And so they saw that we were building some stuff on Webflow, and then they started sending some leads our way. And you know, as we saw that kind of play out, or like like, you know, this is okay, like maybe this is an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. And it was almost like kind of getting a second chance to kind of play, you know, run this playbook a different way.
And so what I think is interesting is that it sounds like, and correct me if I didn't get this right, but you know, you have Barrel Holdings. You started with Barrel, now you have Barrel Holdings, which is and this is my words, but effectively a holding company of a various agency brands that have different areas of specialization. Is that correct?
Yep. Pretty much. So, portfolio of agencies. Yep.
Yeah, portfolio. Thank you. Portfolio of agencies. And these are all wholly owned, like homegrown agency brands. Like, there's not businesses you've acquired, or did you acquire any?
Yeah,
of
these have all been homegrown. I mean, we do have aspirations to, you know, eventually either acquire or even kind of merge in agencies to existing agencies.
Sure.
So those are kind of things on the roadmap. But yeah, these are all homegrown.
What was the decision process as you and your co-founder were thinking about these opportunities? Why not just expand the scope of the Barrel brand and not start a separate brand? Like what was the decision process, and why did you ultimately choose to, you know, create a separate brand for this, let's say the BX Studio, which is Webflow?
Yeah. Okay. So just to rewind it back, like I think we yeah. I mean, I wish we were as intentional and kind of had this master plan to start with, but that was not the case. So the kind of the origins of Barrel Holdings came first from just this need that we had of like I said, Barrel had been around a long time. We had accumulated a lot of different types of clients, not and many of them didn't even fit kind of that e-commerce Shopify positioning that we were leaning towards. Especially like we had clients from when we first started the business that whether they were nonprofits, maybe financial services, like just different verticals and just kind of on different tech stacks that just didn't fit where we were going with the agency. Initially we were like, oh, maybe we just have to kind of sunset these clients and kind of help them find new homes. But we do a calculation, just kind of added them all up together, and we're like, wait, this is not an insignificant number that like
There's some revenue here.
Yeah, there's revs there, and then like these were also profitable accounts because they were mainly support services that had really good margins. So we kind of did some math, and we started having some convos, and we had an employee that like had been running a lot of these accounts and had very great familiarity with these types of clients, and so he volunteered to run the business if we were to spin it out. And so we created a joint venture with him, and that's where Vaulted Oak was born. And there was a whole process to kind of split that business off from Barrel, and yeah, and it was great. Like there's a lot of benefits from it too, because like one of the challenges was like if you have this long tail of clients, maybe 20 plus clients, and and then at the same time you're trying to service our kind of the core clients that are doing Shopify work, but then you have the team where you're trying to like staff them in their kind of pockets of time with these like support and maintenance projects. It just drove everyone kind of nuts. It was like a lot of resourcing pain, and so I think it simplified the business by kind of removing those kinds of accounts and moving them out of Barrel. So with that experience, so we're like, okay, cool. Like let's see how Vaulted Oak plays out, and it was great. Like right off the bat, like just different cost structure, different expectations for clients, and just like there's like a really great focus because and we started off with a very simplified pricing structure that has not changed to this day, where it was like, look, our base plan is like this 25 hours a quarter package that you buy, so it's a very small plan, but like that's kind of the basis of it. And then you can buy additional packages of hours or upgrade to different quarterly plans. But like that was it. It was super simple and like made it such an easy way to buy for clients. And so once we saw how that focus could like play out in terms of both execution and just kind of easy to bring on new clients, we decided, hey, there's something here. Like maybe, whenever there's another kind of opportunity that doesn't align with what we're trying to do at Barrel and Shopify, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of spin that out as a separate business. So that became really the genesis. And that's what kind of gave us the confidence to approach BX Studio once we learned, hey, like with Webflow, we don't want to dilute Shopify work with Webflow projects. So how about we, find a way to spin this out as a business as well. And then, was able to recruit a CEO for this role. And, that's it, just kind of seeded him with a few projects of like leads coming through Barrel. And then we're off to the races. And, it's been a great growth story since then.
Well, I think with the brilliance of that is that I think what many founders or CEOs might try to do is they may over-identify potentially with their version of Barrel. Like it's their first company, it's the one that's the most successful, and so let's just pack in a lot of different type of clients, a lot of different products, because I'm going to be Amazon one day, right? And I think what you kind of walk through, what I got from that at least, was that it was a different cost structure, a different product, different pricing structure, different service levels that were different enough that it was ultimately disruptive and incongruent with the Barrel sort of rhythm that you had with your clients, the product, and so on and so forth. So that at that point it made sense to go, okay, we're going to do something different. We're going to pull it out and make it its own thing. You had an employee who was willing to raise their hand, which made it, I'm sure, a lot easier than giving you a second job to have to try and manage. And so I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that and how you've done that. And it sounds like it's been a positive move because obviously you have BX Studio and you've got, so what else is under the umbrella? for now?
Yeah, so we have Bolster, which is our, so it's our brand design agency. And, we saw a real need to, kind of have this like design focused offering, especially like on the B2B side, because, with BX, there are a lot of opportunities where, like some of these clients, they come with a website request, but what they really needed initially was like a brand design, help. And then, but then when you do kind of like the branding piece, there's other opportunities, right? You kind of, there's the sales and marketing materials that you have to create. There may be trade show collateral. So there's a lot of different things you can do, maybe even ad creative, whatever. So we thought, like it'd be interesting just to have a company that can service that. And then, for any of the web needs, when that needs to happen, can go to BX. We'll see. I mean, like, Bolster is still kind of a year plus in. We've done some like interesting things with that business, trying to really rethink the way like people buy branding services. I'd say, it's not been all smooth sailing. So we're still continue to experiment. But, one thing that we're excited about is like this, this idea of like, for certain types of clients, they don't need to spend too much time on branding. They can get something that's very, usable and like effective, in a matter of weeks, not months. And then, this velocity of getting branding done is something that we're really excited about.
Hey, it's Corey. I hope you're enjoying this episode. And I want to let you know that I have a new best-selling book that has just come out that gives you my proven system to escape founder-led sales. It's called Anyone, Not Everyone, and it's been endorsed by Aaron Ross, April Dunford, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, John Ruhlin, and many others. If you'd like to get the audiobook absolutely for free, there's a link below in the description, or you could simply go to anyonenoteveryone.com and start listening right now. I think it's needed because, in my experience, brands need the sunlight of day. They need to actually breathe a little bit in the world for you to actually know what's working and what's not, versus trying to manage it all inside of a boardroom or whatnot. I'm curious what your perspective is. I mean, you built a barrel based on Shopify, and you're building up BX Studio based on Webflow. What are the sort of the benefits and then also the challenges of building an agency business on a platform?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say benefits, to start is, there's, as you kind of do more work on that platform, you can, develop your expertise, and then you can also develop, some reusable components and other, assets that you can help to speed up delivery, improve margins. Your team just gets more used to kind of doing it, and then you can streamline processes. So there's a degree of like efficiency gained from doing this. And then, just I think from a business development, like opportunities, lead generation aspect, like, there's, you can really match well with, there's clearly, somebody who's looking for, hey, I have a Shopify site. I need work done by a Shopify, a firm that specializes in this. It's such a, it's a good way to differentiate and make that match. Yeah. So I say that's on the benefit side, but, I'd say on the, some of the challenges with it is, I mean, like depending on the space, it can get very competitive very fast. Like if everyone sees like, hey, this is growing, and this is, there's a lot of, kind of opportunities there. Like you're going to get folks from all angles, like whether, it's a big systems integrator coming into the space and kind of taking the enterprise clients, or, you're going to have freelancers who, are very capable and can do the work that, a boutique agency can. So like there's gonna be competition at all levels. And then not to mention like, companies like the exact same size as us, they're, going after the exact same clients. And so, it could quickly get commoditized. And so like I would say like we would like, sometimes the platform itself is not enough. There's got to be another level of kind of specialization or, kind of, focus that needs to be layered on top of that.
Yeah. So the analogy I'm thinking about as you're speaking about that is I know a couple of agencies that have done something similar, but on the HubSpot platform. And back in the day, HubSpot used to be the big differentiator for them. And then eventually everyone became a HubSpot certified, gold, platinum, whatever partner. Yeah. And then they lost that advantage from a positioning perspective. And so as a result of that, some of these folks would specialize further, this time into a vertical market. So what I'm thinking about is Kula partners, and they specialize now in doing. They're a HubSpot premier partner for manufacturing companies, right? So they focus on the platform and now the vertical as a way to differentiate. Have you guys thought much about adding more of a specific vertical focus, or does that not really make sense for your business?
No, we do. I mean, we've done this more and more. So I'd say like with Barrel, like it's been, you know, Shopify, ecom, like with a focus on like CPG, so mainly like food and bev, just we've done tons of work with like different like snack brands, alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, as well as like, skincare, beauty brands as well. So like I think just kind of, and consumables are a big part of it, like subscriptions, repeat purchases. Those are also major aspects of what we do because it's CPG. So yeah, that's been an important focus for us, and yeah, like being more intentional about going deeper into that has been really good for like how we even within Shopify, like the types of expertise we need to cater to those types of clients, and also like the types of events that we attend or the types of folks that we'll try to make relationships with. Those have all evolved and kind of been honed in because of the extra of the vertical specialization.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. So you mentioned before we hit record that you are going to be focusing more and more on the holding company versus the day-to-day operations of Barrel. And so tell us a little bit about your decision there and what drove that decision and what you're looking forward to with this change.
Yeah. So, one thing, just going through this experience of building the holding company and like, launching these different agency businesses with their own, CEOs, I realized like, like, can this be possible for Barrel as well? Because, I had been in the day-to-day of Barrel, for, basically the last 18 years. And, just one thing that I realized was, hey, maybe, I can be most effective kind of doing what I'm doing for the other agencies, which is, just being a sounding board, kind of helping to, helping to develop strategy, helping to kind of, see the big picture, and then, thinking about some special projects to support these companies, and also the cross-pollination of knowledge share across all these companies.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, it was just a natural conversation because, we have a couple other, partners within the business at Barrel. So, we have Lucas, our chief experience officer, who's taken over as the CEO, and he's been in the business for, he started as a designer and he's been in the business for like 11 plus years. And so,
Wow.
like just over the years, he's just proven himself to be such a, like learner and like, just somebody who's taken on additional responsibilities and just kind of risen to the occasion to just expand his capabilities. And so, I thought like, okay, can hand over the keys and like know that he's going to do an amazing job. And then, supporting him is also Wes, who's been our CTO for a long time. And, he's been in the business for over 13 years. And so the two of them with them, like leading the charge, like we thought, okay, Saywick and I could step away from the day-to-day of Barrel and then kind of really focus on the holding company as like this kind of support structure for all the agencies. And then, kind of simplify the business as well. Because I think with Barrel, us two being in it, like, just things just accumulate a lot of just different types of baggage in certain ways, like ways of doing things. And we were like, okay, let's be more objective about this, take ourselves out of it, look at it as, all the other businesses. And then, in many ways that'll set up for even greater success because we're not so attached in kind of, weird ways that, just having,
Sure.
Obviously founded it and kind of having lived with it for so long, like, you might get that emotional attachment like we did.
Of course. So for those listeners who would like to eventually be in your shoes, and what I mean by this is that they build a successful business that operates independently of them, that they can come in and be a coach and a guide to the executive team, and that's in place. Besides having, because it sounds like one of the critical elements there is having good people who've proven themselves over the years, who are eager and wanting to step up. But what else must be true for the agency or for the founder and the business they built for them to be able to make this kind of transition?
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important piece is probably making sure like the incentives are aligned with those who are going to be leading the business. Because, if you want to ensure that they're in it for the long term, it has to be worthwhile for them. And so, I think you err on the side of like, yeah, just be willing to give up,
Yeah.
a good chunk of upside for them to, they definitely take advantage of that as they grow the business and, help to drive continued success. And so I think having those discussions, being deliberate and intentional about how you structure, compensation and incentives is very important. And then, the other part is just, continue to have oversight of the business. It's because we're not in the day to day doesn't mean we're, not still like kind of invested and wanting to see the business
Sure.
succeed. So like having
Yeah.
the systems in place. I mean, we spent years kind of really honing in and kind of making sure we were comfortable with, the financial reporting, making sure we have visibility into like the cash flow side of things and all the things that made us comfortable about, being able to be out of the day to day because, we knew, there's enough controls and reporting to help us understand what state these businesses were in and how they would kind of perform into the future.
Sure. And when and if you need to step back in for whatever reason, like that signal would be clear.
Right, yeah.
What are you excited about for the future of your holding company?
Yeah. So, one aspect I didn't mention is, so, I think, like I've shared this in the past, but we have this kind of website that, it built years ago. It's called Agency Docs. And, it's where it started because like this was maybe almost 8 years ago now. So like on a whim, I was, I had this thought of like, okay, I would pay money to see another agency's like deliverables, like their templates, their documents, kind of what their proposals look like, et cetera. And then whenever I would ask people, they'd be kind of, iffy about it. They'd be like, I don't know, like, you have anything specific you want to see? But like, no one would like kind of open up their Dropbox or whatever to me, which understandable. But I was like, hey, like, I actually don't mind. I'm actually like, I don't think I have much to hide. But I thought it would be fun. Like, let me just take, the docs that we've kind of made use of at Barrel, and, I just made some stuff generic, obviously took out anything kind of, confidential or like private, but like, I was like, this is, useful. Like if I saw this, I would find value. So I packaged them all up, did this in like a, basically half a day, honestly. Like, so like I just put it up on a Shopify site and then it's been like, I put it up there, didn't do much marketing, but like it's year after year, just, it still kind of sells, a few $1,000 worth of like PDFs basically. And so
Yeah.
I told myself, I was like, hey, like if I ever kind of like, take a step back from the day-to-day of Barrel, like, I want to kind of revisit this because I think, this many years later, I have completely different perspective on, like what kind of documents and how they should be organized and how they should be, kind of consumed. So I think I'm excited about that because we have, so one thing I've been working on is kind of this Barrel Holdings kind of business system toolkit, that like we've been using to kind of visualize like, across, different areas of the business, like these are kind of some of the best practices or areas that you need to just have, certain aspects of, certain things in place, whether systems or policies or anything, or even templates, just having things in place. And so I thought, hey, if I'm doing this for our agencies, I think there's going to be value for folks, who might want to see this, first of all, and then kind of be, make use of some of the documents or templates or SOPs that come out of it. So that's something that we've been working on and something that we're excited to, bring to market. I think, probably sometime, in 2024, like we'll, towards probably the end of the year, we'll have a lot more to share there. But yeah, pretty excited.
I'm excited about that. That kind of brings us to the next sort of topic I wanted to touch on briefly, which is you publish a weekly email called Consumed and Created. And I'm a fan of that. I love reading it. And in fact, a couple months ago, you included an article from a CEO of a business that it's basically an SLP business that I found extremely insightful. That one reinforced my excitement about getting your emails. And I saw you recently on LinkedIn or elsewhere that you shared that the newsletter, this weekly newsletter, has been getting a lot of great traction. People are subscribing. So could you share with the audience a little bit about what that weekly email is, the inspiration behind it, as well as some of the other personal brand related stuff that you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, this newsletter probably started, maybe 6, 7 years ago. It was really at first kind of this desire to counterbalance like the consumption with like, just making something because I
Yeah.
just, I've been in a rut of like, I'm reading all this stuff, whether it's books, social media, whatever, but like, there's nothing coming out, there's like, I'm at this deficit, this kind of deficit of consumption, right?
It's
I was
true.
like, all right, this is like my way to, just kind of deliberately counterbalance it. And, part of it was, if I'm consuming stuff, even having some commentary about the things I read makes that consumption a lot richer. Cause like,
Yeah.
I think there's an aspect of passive consumption, like, when you're just working through like, dozens of podcasts every week, or like you're just browsing through articles, but you don't like stop to ever like reflect, okay, like how does this apply and write about it? Like, I think those are missed opportunities. So I thought, okay, if I create a newsletter where like I'm forced to at least take a couple links, at least, a couple pieces of content every week and comment on it, maybe that's of value to me. And like, I'll have gotten more value out of that content. And at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm creating something, right? So there's something to that. And then I have a section called created where it's, specifically for any kind of piece of content I've created during the week. And it used to be just blog posts, but nowadays it could be LinkedIn stuff. It could be a presentation I made or whatever, just kind of, but it's always like, because I do it weekly now, like it's always on top of my mind. Like, as soon as the newsletter goes out, I'm like, okay, like what's the next thing that's going to be created for the next newsletter? And like, that puts me in a creator mode. And it's been a good forcing function for me to just be like, okay, like I'm going to, put something out into this world, even if it's not perfect, but it'll just force me to, make time to create stuff. So that's where the kind of genesis of the newsletter was. And, it was sporadic. At first I just added maybe like 20 of my friends and just kind of sent it out willy nilly. And then like, it was, it might be like, I might go a couple weeks and then like, pause for like 3 months. And then, just kind of, it was like intermittent. But what happened was I took a writing course. This is way back, I think 2019. It's called Rite of Passage. And, it was a great course just on like, creating content and having a system for it and just being super disciplined about it. And so like, since that course, I've not missed a week. And so this is like, going on 5 years of like every single week I've sent a newsletter. And like, it's been, yeah, it's just something I just take pride in as like, all right, like no matter how busy or like crazy, the schedule gets, I just, I'll just make time to do it. And, there's a whole system around it as well. So that's been good. And, honestly, like I say like first few years, it was like, I thought, okay, this is definitely not an audience building thing because like no one's signing up, but it's more, like I said, just to kind of get that,
Yeah.
get that kind of habit of creating content. But slowly but surely, I think some folks found value in what I was putting out, and so I've been able to grow my list some, and yeah, it's still like a small list relatively, right? But I think it's something that has gotten some good engagement. I've actually met a lot of great people along the way through the newsletter, and like
Yeah.
it's been a good way to also keep some of my friends in the loop too about what I'm up to.
Yeah. I'd say that you do share. It feels like you're writing to friends. This doesn't feel like a formal kind of like essay that you would submit in high school or college. It's really accessible. I can relate to this idea of writing. I recently wrote a book, and part of that process was finding a way for me to articulate the ideas in my head. I'm very, very much in my head, and finding a way to actually not only just get it on paper, but in a way that is easy and good to consume by others. It almost helps me to find ways to articulate these ideas in public. It just helps me in that regard. I do a daily newsletter for the same reason. It's like I write daily because it helps me to figure out how to actually put these ideas to words. And oh, by the way, there's people reading this too. It's like the primary benefit is that I get the opportunity to articulate these ideas. So I can relate to that for sure. And I would say that you are quite transparent. You talk about your personal goals. You talk about the books you read, your investments, the changes you're making in the business, the struggles that you face, which I think is a refreshing read for many people in a world that there isn't enough of that. So I appreciate what you do in that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I would say that there's many, many more roads we can go down, but I want to wrap it up with just two more quick questions for you. What would you say to your 23-year-old self looking back now, having been through this barrel journey and everything that's gone on with the business and all the growth, all the books you've read, all the coaching you've received and given, what would you say to your younger self who is an ambitious young business owner who really wants to build a great, viable, successful agency? What are some things that come to mind?
Yeah. I mean, I think, two things I would say is like, look, relationships are everything. Just, make sure, you just keep that in mind. Cause I don't think I kind of, that really clicked for me, until much later, but like just this idea of like, hey, long-term, think long-term and, especially around the relationship side of like, just it's about who it's about how well it's about how you treat them, all those things, and just kind of valuing that above anything else. And then beyond that, just like embrace a life of discipline. Just I think it's obviously as a 23-year-old, it was this really hard message to kind of internalize, I'm sure, but I think things started just kind of clicking a lot more for me once I kind of had some systems in place of like just better, whether it's better diet, better sleeping habits, just kind of better routines around fitness, all those things kind of coming together made everything so much easier and just kind of gave me the energy to do things. And I wish, my 23-year-old would have known that much earlier.
Me too. And audience, if you want to hear more about Peter share about that, definitely check out his newsletter. Last question for you as we wrap up. What's your motivation?
I think I get a kick out of just being a facilitator for, the success of others. I think just kind of it's like, and it's not like, I don't even need the credit, but it's just kind of knowing that like, oh, look, I played a small role in like helping somebody, in their journey from getting A to B. Like I was able to provide an assist and, it was impactful in a meaningful way. I think that just more than anything, just kind of is a real motivator. And that's why just thinking about, hey, like, did I have like the best kind of business outcomes, to date so far, or like, just have kind of the whatever financial or, kind of external success? No, but like, the thing I'm super proud of is there are a lot of people that I've kind of, come in contact with that I've been able to, just help in one way or another. And I think, those are the things that I'm most proud of.
So I think on your website, I'm on your website right now, and I don't know which page, but it's really clear. What I admire about you is that you're really clear about your values and your principles. And I think the first one you list on this page, I'm thinking about is the same thing you just said, that you're driven to help other people, to help facilitate their success. And so I think you've definitely demonstrated that here and sharing all your wisdom, your story, and your insights on your journey. So thank you so much, Peter, for joining.
All right. Thanks for having me.
That's it for today. I'm Corey Quinn, and I hope you join me again next time on the Deep Specialization Podcast. If you received value from this show, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.